There we go.
Thank you for reminding me.
We have a student who says they sent their request on April 10th and they thought it was supposed to be done within 10 business days. But it seems like there's a delay. Can you say how long the delay will be?
So that was our old schedule in previous years when requests trickled in slowly over time. But considering there's kind of a high anxiety situation this year, as I said before, they've all plopped in our queue all at once. So yes, 10 days used to be the normal processing time, but now since we have a flood of requests, we are requesting that you be patient for 3 to 4 weeks while we get this done. You may get yours before that time. We hope that's the case, but we have to give ourselves this window as we work through the queue.
For students who attended high school in the US, can we only receive our I-20 after we've graduated high school and our CVIS ID has been transferred?
That's correct.
So I would say also, don't expect the I-20 the day after your CVIS ID has been transferred.
No,
give us some time.
Give us a week or two. I mean, it depends on the transfer window. I mean, we have a lot of students who are like you, who are in the US and need their CVIS records transferred in May and June. So again, we're working as hard as we can to get those students their I-20s as quickly as we can.
Should Canadian students apply for an F1 visa? Is there any benefit to having an F1 versus just an I-20?
So it's kind of one and the same, and I just want to explain the difference. The I-20 is the document of eligibility. That says you're eligible to get an F1 visa stamp. It means you're sponsored by Stanford for this particular status. In the case of Canadians, they do not need a visa stamp. All they need is an I-20 and to have paid the CVIS fee. So lucky Canadians, right? They don't have to go to an embassy or consulate and get a stamp. All they need is the I-20. So you can be the most relaxed students of all in this group, those of you who are Canadian and on this call, because you don't have the pressure of getting a visa stamp.
And we do get questions from Canadians sometimes, like, what do you mean I don't need a visa? How do I get into the US? So you pretty much just fly into the port of entry. And when you're going through, immigration, instead of having to show them the I-20 and the visa, you just have to show them the I-20.
Right.
But you do get an F1 visa status in the US.
Yeah, you still have to follow all the same rules as everybody else in F1 status. So all the same things apply to you Canadians. You still have to get work authorization. You still have to do everything that we're going to tell you to do that people in F1 status have. The stamp, the visa stamp that you're all going to be, most of you will be seeking this summer, is a ticket across the US border. Once you're in the US, you're fine, right? It just gets you across the border. Then it's the I-20 that governs your status there. We can give you extensions, we can give you work authorization, all that appears on your I-20 document. Your visa stamp is just to get you across the border.
And sometimes we refer to it as a key to enter the US. Once you enter the US, it doesn't matter. What matters then is your I-20 and the fact that you're maintaining your visa status.
Yes.
And is the earliest date that we can arrive at campus?
Ooh, so that maybe, Edith, would you mind talking a little bit about that? Because, right, Shalini, I think.
Yeah, maybe we could start off by saying that students who are not transfer students can enter the US up to 30 days before the start of the program. So if your program is starting on September 20th, the earliest that you can enter the US is 30 days before that. And then Edith perhaps can answer something about housing and those other issues. Thanks, Edith.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me this morning. My name is Edith Wu and I work with the Approaching Stanford team. In terms of campus arrival questions, you will only be able to move onto campus on the day of your scheduled move-in. And we're still working out that move-in schedule because for this year, we're going to need to move in our new students across a couple days. So usually in non-COVID years, everyone would arrive at the same time and the dorms would just kind of be flooded with a lot of people all at once. So for health and safety reasons, we're going to spread out that move-in, and the university is still figuring out what that schedule is. So we're hoping to set those dates really soon. And once we know what the move-in schedule is, we can also confirm that start date for ISO. When you arrive for ISO, you're going to move in directly into your fall room. So you'll just get to do a straight move in right into your space, and you won't have to move a couple times around. I know sometimes people worry about that. And then international students would move in first ahead of the other regular students. That's what we're anticipating. I know there's a lot of questions around vaccination status and how that might affect your arrival date. And so we are talking with the Baden Health Center, and they're going to put together some guidance. So we don't have that for you this morning. It's a little bit too early because the university just announced that new requirement, but we're working on that and hope to share information really soon about which vaccinations we'll accept, how can unvaccinated students who arrive get their vaccinations quickly. We're lucky that we have a medical center right here on campus. I think there's some good options there, but we're waiting to hear what that information is.
This might be kind of a question for you as well, Edith. Do international students have to arrive 14 days before the orientation to quarantine?
Yeah, that's what we are waiting to find out on in terms of what the university guidelines will be and what our public health guidelines are as well. And so I think the one thing I do want to say is, even though you can arrive into the US 30 days before, you may not be able to move onto campus until your designated move-in date. So I think what we're trying to say is be really careful about planning your travel. I wouldn't have anything that's non-refundable at this point, just so that we can make sure you're arriving to campus on the day that you need to move in.
Thank you, Edith. What happens if our country is not currently giving appointment for visas this year?
That's a difficult situation, and we know that there are several countries around the world where that is the case. There's a couple of options you have. One, some of our students are going to other countries to apply for visa stamps, but others are recognizing that they'll just hold on and wait to see whether some of these embassies in their home country open up in time. We do want to say that some of our students are contacting us saying they're only getting appointments in October and November. And we realize that's distressing, but one thing you can do is apply for an expedite appointment based on your program start date. So if the embassy gave you an appointment in October and your start date is September 20th, please write to us at Stanford, because we can refer you to the admissions office where they're happy to write a support letter for an expedite appointment. And we're working out the details about that now, but if you can give them specific information about the embassy you've applied to and when your appointment is, then they can support you with this letter from Stanford.
And if that doesn't work, then your choices are to take a gap year. Edith, do you know what happens if students can't join us in the fall or get here in time for NSO? What are you suggesting?
So Shalini, we can't say right now. I think we are actually going to be in a meeting later today to discuss what the options are and if remote enrollment will be a realistic option for our new students and what that would mean. In normal years, we do require that everyone will have arrived by that first day of NSO so that you can go through that experience together with your classmates. That's been really important in terms of the transition to Stanford and just transitioning into our community and the culture here. But we know, this is unprecedented. So I think we're looking at what all those options are. And if we offer that remote enrollment, we want to make sure that we have classes that you're able to take that are worthwhile for you to be remotely enrolled.
Next question. Will I retain the same CVIS number from last year if I received my I-20 last year, but decided to take a gap year afterward?
So I'll answer that one because it really depends. And I have to go into your CVIS record and see whether it was terminated or extended. So if you are one of those students for whom this is the situation, that you deferred or you transferred to Stanford and then you were remote, please write me an email with your former CVIS number or the CVIS number that you currently have, and I'll check your CVIS record and tell you whether the number will remain the same or whether we'll have to create a new one.
Elsa, will you clarify which email address they use to contact you?
Yes, I will put it in chat, but it's new_international, INTL_students@stanford.edu, but I'll send it to everybody.
Thank you.
Next question. Does the financial aid package cover for the CVIS fee and visa fees?
No, it does not specifically cover for that. But it might be best for you to write to the financial aid office and confirm it.
Another question. Can you speed up the I-20 process as the appointment dates in our country are quite filled up and we're afraid we'll not make it on time?
Yeah, we're working as quickly as we can. We do want to assure you of that, and we recognize that this is stressful for some students. We do.
If we went to high school in the States, is our CVIS number going to be the same as our old I-20? If so, can we use our current CVIS number to apply for a visa?
So if you're transferring directly to Stanford this spring from your high school, then your number will remain the same and you can apply for a renewal of your F1 stamp, I'm assuming, with this particular number, yes. But we do have students who are on J's here and they want to become F's, and that doesn't work that way. You can't renew an F to a J. You have to be the same visa classification that you were in high school or at another institution.
I have queries about Cardinal Care and I emailed them, but my queries have not responded yet. When will we get details about information about the healthcare?
I think what's happening at the Bechtel International Center is happening in many other offices on campus, and that we're getting hundreds of emails quite early in the season. So I expect that Johanna will respond to you. When exactly they'll have the detailed information about healthcare, do you know, Edith, or we're just waiting at this time? It's a little early in the year to get everything clarified.
Yeah, the Vaden Health Center has a publication called Student Health Matters, and they're finishing that up, and that will be available really soon to students.
Okay.
You can go online right now to vaden.stanford.edu, and there is a tab for insurance, and they do separate information for international students and domestic students.
All right. In the application for the I-20, if you have full aid from Stanford, do you need to upload any other documents apart from the financial aid award letter?
No, you don't, just your passport. So if you're getting a full ride from Stanford, just upload that financial aid letter and a scanned copy of your passport and you're good to go.
Right from Stanford.
I also see a question there about being able to study online. The US Embassy in my country stopped visa interviews a long time ago. Will I be able to study online? So the decision this year has been that everybody needs to be physically present. Undergraduates need to be physically present on campus to start their program. Unless some other decision is made at this point. You need to be at Stanford to start your program. Maybe a delay for a quarter is fine, but we'll have more details later and we will send out an email and let everybody know.
Since my father is sponsoring my education with his investment statement and income tax returns, will his investment and statement and income tax returns suffice as financial documents for the I-20?
So the income tax, no. We've rethought our willingness to accept investment statements recently, because as tuition goes up, so is it more and more uncomfortable for families to show liquid assets to meet the total costs of their children's program for even 1 year. So what we are asking, if you're submitting an investment document, invested capital, you accompany it with a letter saying that you're willing to sell, and this can be sold. These investments can be sold at short notice to provide financial support for the program. So we don't want to see CDs in a 10-year investment that you can't sell without penalty for 10 years. That's not going to fly for financial support. So you really do have to show investments that can be liquidated quickly.
How much is the CVIS cost?
$350.
US dollars, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the,
So- Go ahead, Valerie.
is the citizenship on the I-20 document based on the passport scan that we submitted through Bechtel Connect? My country of citizenship as reflected in Bechtel Connect profile information is incorrect. What should I do?
So contact us, because somehow that's a mistake. So presumably you have more than one citizenship, and that's how that mistake was made. And the wrong citizenship was used or communicated to Bechtel Connect, and that's how it got uploaded to the I-20 document. So let us know. We're happy to correct that.
Since all incoming students are required to be vaccinated, how will internationals acquire their vaccine if they cannot get it in their home country?
So that's a really good question. I don't know if Edith, you're more poised to answer that than we are.
Yeah, so Vaden is hoping to offer that vaccination either upon arrival or soon upon arrival. So that will either be at the Vaden Health Center itself or at the Stanford Medical Center. And there's a couple sites there.
I have some student contribution in my award letter. Do I need to apply for a job on campus in order to apply for the I-20?
No.
Yeah. No, you just have to upload your financial aid letter that shows that you will have work-related contributions, and we'll put that on your I-20.
If you are a Canadian living abroad, do you have to enter the US through Canada, or can you enter just from wherever you're living?
From wherever you're living, just show your valid Canadian passport.
And I-20.
And I-20. And
Yes.
actually at the port of entry, they often like Canadians to show that they've paid the CVIS fee. So print out the receipt from the CVIS fee, right, Valerie?
Yes, yes. How does Cardinal Care work for international students? When do we have to pay the fee for that?
Do you know, Edith?
Yeah, in the summer, all students will need to either acknowledge or waive Cardinal Care. So for international students, if you have comparable coverage that covers you in the Bay Area, the California Bay Area, you need to provide that documentation, and you can fill out a waiver. The information's online. I'll post it in the chat. And the deadline for that is August 15th to waive Cardinal Care and show that you have comparable coverage. And then if you're going to accept it, then the deadline for that would be September 15th, and you'll do that in Access. I'll put the info in the chat.
If we arrive with our families, say a week before orientation, would we have to lodge in a nearby hotel, or is there on-campus housing for admits and their relatives?
So you would have to find a nearby hotel. And as Edith has said, there'll be, you'll find out the earliest date when you can move in. But for family members, they will have to find alternate housing in hopefully a hotel close by. We have information about hotels on Stanford's website, don't we, Edith? For families, we have some information about.
I think visit.stanford.edu. I can put that in the chat as well. I will also say, just a heads up right now to let you know, we don't have guidance yet about family members and whether they can come and walk around campus and help you move in on that day. We're hoping, but right now we have a closed campus. And so we will share that information. That does not prevent a family member from flying out with you and taking advantage of spending some time in the local area. But I just wanted to be really clear yet, we don't yet have guidelines for family members on campus.
So this question is from a gap year student. I applied and received a 5-year F1 visa last summer and chose to take a gap year. My visa is still valid, but my I-20 isn't. I talked to immigration and they said if my CVIS ID doesn't change, I do not need a new visa. Should I file for an I-20 the regular way, or should I contact someone at Bechtel directly in order to receive a new I-20 that hopefully has the same CVIS ID so that I don't need to apply for a new visa?
Well, I'm assuming that you took a gap year from Stanford and that you have a Stanford I-20. If you do, then you do not need to apply for a new visa. And you should apply for your I-20 in the regular way through Bechtel Connect.
Yeah, but you want to make sure you apply as a newly admitted student, because what we need to see, and federal regulations mandate this, is all your financial documents once more, because we have to see financial documents no older than 12 months. So that's why we're making you go through this particular channel to request an I-20, even though you've gotten an I-20 from Stanford already a year ago, because we have to update the financial documents in your record.
All right, and update the start date of your program.
And of course, yes, update the start date of your program.
And just also so students know, even if you got a new CVIS number, you can still use the visa. The CVIS number does not have to match the CVIS number on your visa.
That's right.
But you should not try to enter with your older I-20. You do need a new I-20 in order to enter this fall.
Very true. Can we arrive 30 days before the move-in date or 30 days before the school start date?
School start date.
Yeah, you can enter the US 30 days before the start date on your I-20, but the move-in date to campus has not yet been determined. It certainly won't be 30 days ahead, but we will have that information to you.
Some more questions there's a question about whether students have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks when they get here before ISO. And again, we don't know that yet, right, Edith?
Right. And I'm seeing there's still some confusion around move-in date and start date. So the academic year begins, first day of classes is September 20th. So that's going to be the date that you have in terms of 30 days in advance arrival. Then move-in and orientation, that happens the week before September 20th. So normally at this time, we could say everyone, NSO begins on Tuesday, and that's both the move-in date and the first day of NSO, and that would mean ISO would start 3 days prior to that. And we could tell you exactly, this is the start date for ISO and the move-in date for international students. So what we're saying that we don't have set yet is because we need a few days for move-in, the university hasn't determined what that first date is, but anticipate arriving about a week and a half before September 20th, or maybe I should say anticipate moving onto campus about a week and a half before September 20th. And that will be approximately when your move-in date is.
Are international students able to participate in SPOT, even though it takes place at the same time as international student orientation?
No, SPOT is Stanford pre-orientation trips. They take you on some outdoor trips. And it has always taken place at the same time as ISO. So international students who need to attend ISO cannot participate in SPOT. What we do say though is the outdoor education program has some great programs throughout the year, and they offer some courses, and we encourage you to take those. You can also take courses and become a SPOT leader. So next year you can go on SPOT and lead trips yourself.
Sorry, Valerie, I just wanted to to let folks know that Elsa had posted the email address for any questions. So you can see it there. She sent it at 9:28. Go ahead then, Valerie.
Who should we contact at Stanford for a support letter to get an expedited appointment with the US Embassy?
You're going to contact us through new_intl_students@stanford.edu, and we will forward your request to undergraduate admissions, who's happy to write those expedite letters for you.
But
Again,
which-
the strongest case for an expedite request is coming from students whose embassy appointments are scheduled after their program start dates. So I used the example of an appointment in October when you're supposed to start on the 20th of September.
And you should include in your request the consulate, embassy or consulate where you will be applying for your visa, so that we can have a letter, or the admissions office will have a letter addressed to that specific embassy or consulate.
Mhm.
If we don't end up getting a visa and have to take a gap year, what will the process be like, and will there be a deadline, since the choice of declaring that we want to take a gap year is on our enrollment reply form, which we already filled out?
You should contact your admission officer if you do decide to take a gap year. And you know, they try to set a deadline to help you make that decision. But you know, for something like this where it might be out of your control because you're trying to get an appointment and you're unable to get into the country on time, just talk with your admission officer. They tend to be really understanding and can grant those gap years. You would send them an email and they will send you back a contract that you sign.
Yeah, the same goes for housing. Shalini and I met with the housing people this week, and we wanted to say that some students might not be able to get here in the fall for visa reasons. So if you've signed up for housing and it looks like you're not going to get here, please contact the housing people and they will absolutely let you off the hook. You just have to fill out a small form to explain why you're not going to arrive to campus, and there'll be no penalty in canceling.
Is it possible for me to apply for a flight ticket fee waiver?
Flight ticket.
I don't know what that is. Flight ticket fee waiver. Not sure what you're asking. Perhaps you could send an email to the email address that Elsa has posted.
Explain what that is, and maybe I can answer it.
We can take a look here.
Does the bank statement we provide need to be in English?
It doesn't need to be in English, but the currency needs to be converted. And people ask me this, and you just simply print out your statement, and in handwritten form, you can just convert the currency beneath. Sometimes I don't even know which currency we're talking about, so it's helpful to identify the currency too.
Do we have to submit proof of access to enough liquid funds for 1 year or for all 4 years?
1 year.
Unless you're applying for a J visa.
Unless you're applying for a J visa, and we don't, so far we don't have any students who are Js, undergrads.
Okay.
Will we be emailed this recording?
So we'll let you know where to find it. We may post it on our website.
Do I need to apply for a job before applying for the I-20 if I have a student contribution on my award letter?
No.
I think we already kind of answered this question. For students who are considering taking a gap year because of the difficult visa pandemic situation, when is the latest date we can apply for the gap year?
I don't think there's a hard deadline at this point. I would say ask your admission officer, just give them a heads up if it's something that you think that you're considering. I don't believe at this point there's a hard deadline. So I think the best thing to do is just stay in touch with the admission office.
If our country has a long quarantine period, would we be able to stay on campus between quarters?
Yes. I'm not sure about the summer yet. between quarters, between the fall, winter, and spring quarters, yes. Summer quarters, students will have to move out, possibly, unless there's a shift in policy. But at this point, in normal years, students need to move out for the summer.
Will students get vaccinated even if they don't have cardinal care?
Yeah.
Can parents accompany the students to the dorm on move-in date?
We're not sure right now. We know families really want to do that. We want to make that happen, but I can't promise anything. It really depends on the health and safety guidelines the university determines.
Can family members accompany you when coming to the US in September, even though there are travel restrictions for their parents' tourist visas?
So if there are travel restrictions in place for your parents, but not for you as an F1 student, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to come here at the same time as you. I mean, there is the possibility they could get a tourist visa to another country, a third country, and then indirectly come to the United States after quarantining. So it all depends on, you know, sort of what kind of route you want to take to the United States. That is your parents.
I have two passports. One has an active US tourist visa, but the passport is expired. My other passport is still valid. However, I want to know if I should send a copy of my expired passport that is currently in process of being renewed in a month's time, since my tourist visa might have to be canceled for me to get the F1 visa, or should I just submit my valid passport for the I-20 application? Really long question.
So I'm assuming we're not talking about different nationalities. What's your understanding of that question, Valerie? Same nationality, just different passports? Yeah. We don't care at all about your tourist visa, but we do care about a valid passport. So I guess I'm still a little confused about whether they're referring to two different nationalities.
So I guess even if there is that confusion, we could say that we need to see the passport that you will be traveling when you come to the US. So if, for example, you have a British and British and I don't know, Canadian, no, that's a bad example. A British and a Japanese, two different passports, you need to give to us the passport that you will be traveling on when you come to the United States. And it's on that passport that you should be getting your F1 visa. As Elsa said, we don't care about the tourist visa. It won't be canceled most probably when you apply for an F1 visa. So you can have a passport with two different kinds of US visas, and that's all right.
Yeah. I also have gotten a lot of questions already from students who say they're renewing their passports, and the renewal of their passports they think should hold up their I-20 request. And I just want to reassure all of you out there who are actually renewing your passports that you don't have to wait to submit your I-20 request unless there's going to be some new information, like a name change or some vital information change in your passport, your new passport. So the only way this would be applicable to you, that you would have to hold off submitting an I-20 request to us until your passport was renewed, is whether you were changing your name, like you were getting married and your last name was changing. Then you'd have to wait until the new passport was issued. But otherwise, go ahead and submit all the information in the old passport while you're waiting for your new passport to come.
Can students see parents during ISO and NSO leaving campus to do so?
Edith, would you say that depends on the public health guidelines, Stanford guidelines? So we don't quite know yet.
Exactly. So that will depend on what the university is asking of students in the fall.
Yeah.
How long after the visa appointment at the consulate can we enter the US?
So 30 days ahead of your start date, which is September 20th.
What exactly is a letter that my parents need to write for declaring that they can support me in financial subjects?
It's a very straightforward letter. It says that we will support, financially support our son or daughter during the duration of their program at Stanford, and then they date and sign it.
When are we meant to get the housing information / forms?
All of housing will be provided when we start the Approaching Stanford process. So if you accept your offer of admission, May 10th, check your Stanford email and your forms will open. You'll apply for housing through that process. If you end up deciding to defer and take a gap year, we'll work directly with housing on that. So don't worry about taking all those steps to cancel it on your own. We'll take care of all of that for you.
What does it mean to defer enrollment? Is that the same as a gap year?
Yes, that just means you're deferring your admission for a year. So you will enroll with next year's class, the class of 2026. And in all ways, you will become a part of that class. Every year, even without COVID, there's a good number of students that choose to take a year between high school and beginning college. So we always have students who choose to take a gap year. This past year was just, that number is a little larger than usual.
Edith, is it possible for Frosh to defer to enter in winter quarter?
Probably not. I would say that your first enrolled quarter needs to be fall quarter and that you participate in NSO. So the question is whether you can do a fall quarter via remote enrollment and then be in person for winter. But your first quarter of enrollment cannot be winter quarter.
What is the?
I was just going to say, see, we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hours, so we can answer some of these questions now. And those that we can't get to, we will expect them by email. Right?
Sure.
Go ahead.
What is the difference between an F1 and J1 visa? Which is better?
I think we should refer them to our website where it's all clarified. It would probably take us 5 or 10 minutes just to explain that. So I would suggest that you go to bechtel.stanford.edu and under the immigration tab, you will find information about the difference between the two visa types.
There's a very helpful chart that lays it all out. It's under F and J visa comparison.
Yeah.
If we showed proof for 4 years and not just one, is that an issue?
Not at all.
No.
Are we allowed to go to another university for a year due to financial reasons and then come to Stanford as a sophomore with credits transferred, or is that not an option?
You can take courses at another institution as a non-matriculated student. So here in the US, we have community colleges and people might take courses there, or there might be a college that offers a summer program and you earn a couple of units, but you can't enroll at another institution seeking a bachelor's degree, because what that means is you're holding 2 spots. And so when you sign your gap year contract, you're saying that you're agreeing not to enroll as a degree seeking student at another university. If you do enroll as a matriculated student elsewhere and you earn some transfer units, or you earn some credit there, you can transfer that credit over if Stanford accepts that. And there is a process where you can read about the kind of transfer credit that Stanford will accept. And I can put that in the chat if you're curious.
So I just want to add one more thing. So if you're planning to enroll at another university, a college, please make sure that you use that university's I-20 to enter the US. So you should not be entering on Stanford's I-20 if you're not planning to attend Stanford. That would be a violation of your immigration status in the US.
Is Cardinal Care the same as the insurance mentioned in my award letter?
Yes, it would be. So Cardinal Care is Stanford's insurance program. That's the name for it. So it would be the same.
Can students quarantine on campus?
We don't have an answer for you there yet. We did raise it to say to ask, would it be possible if international students who are unvaccinated could arrive even earlier to finish up that 10 days prior to other students arriving? I can't give you an answer, but the question is out there and we hope to share more info soon.
Can I get an award for summer? I got an award for fall.
An award. I guess that would be a question for the financial aid office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and presumably you're talking about next summer, not this summer. Because all our Frosh start in the fall.
The fall.
Yeah. So if you were to stay here during the summer, I imagine that's the question.
How long does it take from the time of the visa appointment at the consulate until I actually get the F1 visa stamp status?
It really depends on the consulate or embassy, how long they take to process your request and send you back your passport with your stamp. I do want to say one more thing quickly about processing times at embassies right now. Because of the COVID situation still around the world, there are often very few US staff in embassies and consulates. So they're working with skeletal staff at some of these places and they're not operating at maximum capacity. So that's why appointments are tough. Time to process visas is slow. The US government just is not sending consular staff abroad if they determine that the COVID situation in that particular country is dangerous. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Am I able to apply for loans for computers as an international student?
I don't know that. You, Edith?
Yeah.
I know people on financial aid do get a computer allowance, but I don't know about others.
I will look into that. I know we also have a really robust tech support system on campus and they loan out monitors, laptops. They have a great equipment lending program as well. I'll look that up.
Would consulates/embassies be able to provide vaccines for international students?
Not that I know of.
Oh,
I think they're pretty busy doing what they do.
All right, I think that is about all our questions.
wow.
Okay.
That's all of them.
Well, I mean, there were a couple of repeats that we had already answered. So
Okay.
if you still have questions and you got here late, you might want to go back and watch the recording after we put it out.
All right, then. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Edith, for being there. We
Yeah.
always count on you to answer the questions that we can't. And to all of you, hope you all stay well, your families are well, and I hope that we'll see all of you on campus this fall. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.